Well, welcome everybody. Today we're here to talk about Experian's latest Global Data Management Research Report. My name is Jordan Tetler. I'm the Senior Marketing Specialist for Experian's Data Quality Business in North America. I lead the Global Market Research and Thought Leadership programs for Experian's Data Quality Business. And today I have Michael Morris here with me, and I'll pass it to you, Michael, to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jordan. As Jordan said, I'm Michael Morris. I'm the VP of Product here at Experian. I'm responsible for all the product planning and roadmap for all the software, data, and APIs that go into Experian's data quality portfolio. And it's good to be with you today.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Today we'll be talking about our research findings. This year, our report focuses on how rapid change in a global pandemic has impacted data perception and usage. You can find and download the report in the handout section on your webinar screen. Today, we'll dive into how we approached this year's research, what it was like for businesses to rapidly transform given the drastic market shifts across the globe, if the data was ready for quick pandemic response, how businesses can prepare for the future, and we'll end with a Q&A session. Throughout the presentation, feel free to leave questions in the comment or question box on your screen. This year, we surveyed 700 employees across the US, UK, and Brazil. These employees have knowledge and visibility into data management issues within their organizations, which had between 250 to 5,000 employees. The employees we surveyed are in managerial, director level, or C-suite positions and primarily sit within IT, chief data officer, or finance functions. In terms of industries, we find that the majority of respondents came from the finance and IT verticals, as well as retail and business services. And now we'll talk about our key findings. We find that there is more demand for data insights in organizations with COVID-19. Why? Well, data is needed to support top priorities like customer experience and upholding data security. We'll get into customer experience and data security in just a minute, but at a high level, data is essential to better understanding customers as buying behaviors and brand loyalty shift. Also, data is needed to accelerate digital transformation. We'll also jump into this in greater detail later on, but businesses have become reliant on their data for digital acceleration. For example, hospitality and brick and mortar businesses who rely on in-person customer interactions had to learn how to engage with customers digitally, but also know who their customers are. To do that, they needed quality consumer data. And lastly, businesses want to use data for societal good. 86% of businesses say they are interested in the concept of data for good. We'll share with you what this means and how businesses are using data for good later on. Although there is more demand of data and data insights now, 93% of businesses had data management issues as a result of the pandemic. With this, companies have focused on data management and data quality. 74% of business users are taking more responsibility for data quality than ever before, and especially before the pandemic. So this means that integrating user-friendly tech and data literacy programs become key when supporting business users on their data journey. Throughout the presentation, you'll notice how important leveraging the right information has become when it comes to responding to the pandemic and preparing for the future. There's no doubt there has been a lot of change as a result of the pandemic. Here, we will walk through what has remained the same over the last few years and what is up and coming. Despite the new challenges and demands we have faced this past year, customer experience and data security remain as top priorities since 2018. However, customer experience and data security are more important than ever before. These priorities are especially important with the acceleration of digital transformation. We'll chat more about customer experience on the next slide, but data security comes into play when we think about remote work. Since the start of the pandemic, businesses have needed to adapt to a solely remote environment. Clearly, you saw that I'm in my home office right now, and figure out how they'll operate digitally and how to continue to protect consumer and operational data, even when employees are not in the office. We also find that businesses are prioritizing talent and workforce. They're looking to hire roles like data quality analysts and data governance managers in the next 6 to 12 months. Furthermore, businesses are looking to improve business resilience. Our global economy was hit hard this past year, and businesses want to make sure that they have the right processes and procedures in place to weather the next crisis. In our research, we find that this all starts with data. "75% of companies have seen drastic changes to their customer buying behavior during the pandemic. It's no surprise that customer buying behavior has shifted since the economic crisis. Whether it's prioritizing convenience and quick delivery over in-store shopping, curbside pickup over delivery, saving more money, or shopping small businesses versus big retailers, we can all agree that as consumers ourselves, we have seen a change in our buying behaviors. For example, my family owns a retail liquidation store that sells furniture and other home goods in the Boston area. At the start of the pandemic, we were hit hard because we're a small family-owned business and we don't have a formal e-commerce platform. Instead, we engage with consumers via Facebook. So finding the consumers were more comfortable shopping online, my mom implemented an e-commerce platform. But also, now that stores are reopening in the Boston area, my mom has actually seen an increase in revenue and an increase in foot traffic compared to before the pandemic. This is because with most office employees still working remotely or people still out of jobs, my mom has found that there are a ton of home improvement projects that are still happening that are on a budget. What's more is that consumers don't want to wait out the extended delivery time due to the overwhelmed postal service, which is bringing them into her store where they can take the product home the same day and safely shop. The pandemic has shifted the way consumers shop in a variety of different ways. What's key here is that my mom saw 2 different market shifts and was able to respond to them in an agile way, which is what we've seen many businesses start to think about as they prepare for the future. Businesses need to strategize how they continue to engage with customers and meet their needs. From a digital standpoint, this could mean ramping up an e-commerce platform or engaging with customers over social media. This all ties back to accelerating digital transformation, whether that is looking to prioritize customer experience and/or data security. 72% of businesses say an acceleration of digital transformation has made businesses more reliant on data and data insights. Again, this could be in regards to improving customer experience or navigating a remote operation. 67% of businesses say COVID-19 has accelerated many initiatives. This is because there's way more demand for data and insights now than ever before. This is only the beginning of why businesses want to invest in data today. They also need to use data for societal good. Data for good is a really cool concept that businesses across the globe are interested in. This could mean increasing collaboration with other organizations to better support a need, sharing data talent to develop or deliver data products for societal good. I like to think about how we're seeing data used in the news, whether we're looking at COVID-19 stats, hospitalizations, or even vaccinations. These are all examples of companies coming together to use data for the purpose of public safety. This could also mean providing data training tools or opportunities to those who have lost employment due to COVID-19. Most businesses find that data literacy is going to be a core competency in the next few years. So it's important to start improving the ability to read, write, and argue with data now, even if you're not in the traditional data or IT role. So Michael, I'm going to pull you in here. What is your favorite example of data for good that you've seen?
Hey, yeah, that's a really great question. Probably one that comes to mind is a situation here in London in getting food and groceries to those in need, actually, including some neighbours of mine. With the boom in online grocery shopping, the supermarkets had a challenge with delivery slots being taken up too quickly for their capacity. And initially, that left those who really needed that service hanging, including my neighbours, who were classed as being in a vulnerable category. And vulnerable is, for the most part, defined as by someone's health status, or they can self-declare to the government as being in a vulnerable status. And the government has a list of these individuals across the UK. And so with that, the government and supermarkets, with the help of third parties like Experian, work together to help ensure lists of vulnerable people from those government records were connected to data from the supermarkets to prioritize those individuals for the precious delivery slots, and therefore ensuring that the most needful individuals got the services in the most timely and effective way. This was something probably fairly straightforward, but it was really saw multiple organizations come together and work together, and I could see an impact directly with the people that I knew. So that's really my favorite example. And I really do like seeing that push for data for good. Now let's dive into whether or not the data was ready for this rapid transformation needed to overcome the market shifts that were present due to the pandemic. For many years, we've looked at the maturity level of data quality in organizations. And our hope was that this maturity level had increased to handle the new demands and desire for insight. Unfortunately for many, quality of data that's fit for purpose is still falling short. 55% of business leaders say they lack trust in their data assets, which hurts their ability to be fully data-driven and act in a nimble and agile way. We find that 63% of business leaders believe their data has improved. Well, that seems a little bit optimistic, considering those same leaders, only 50% believe their CRM or ERP data is clean and can be fully leveraged. And so this stat actually has remained the same over the last few years, which tells us that although businesses are more optimistic when it comes to the quality of their data, there's still a lot of work to be done. In addition, 32% of organizations believe that a third of their data is inaccurate in some way. That could be due to data decay, as it does over time, or it could be because of manual error. And with that in mind, businesses are finally taking a real look at their data and recognizing the myriad of impacts of what poor data quality means. And so poor data quality is seen to impact an organization in several ways, and some of these probably fairly obvious. But an incomplete database or inaccurate data is like a foundation of a building with cracks in it. It presents risk and it stifles growth opportunities for an organization. Our research found that poor data quality could mean wasted resources and additional costs, substandard decision making, and negatively impacted customer experiences. I'm sure we've all seen this in our own lives from the consumer perspective. Just recently, maybe to carry on with my food delivery examples, I was using one of the tech-driven food delivery services here in London, and this particular one I'd not used before. And during the sign-up process, I couldn't find my address, and for whatever reason, they essentially forced me to enter it incorrectly with the postcode that was wrong. Now, for our North American audience, the postcode in the UK is a pretty big deal. Essentially, sort of resolves down to a collection of 16 or so houses. And so that in itself was a frustrating experience. But overall, that experience got much worse when dinner basically got lost and arrived lukewarm and late. Needless to say, we've not used them again. But something as simple as good, user-friendly, high-quality data capture is part of that solid foundation. To go back to the data for good idea, depending on your industry and the services you offer, poor data quality can impact human and environmental safety, if we think in regards to healthcare or emergency services, as well as major reputational damage to organizations when we think about various regulations around data. I mentioned agility a little earlier. The biggest challenge for businesses during the pandemic has been their inability to be agile, to be able to quickly pivot and act on decisions around the market, digital strategy, and operational tactics. And that is going from things like, okay, we're looking at this data to make decisions on a monthly or quarterly basis to actually we need to look at this daily and weekly, and is that data ready and available and trustworthy? 62% of those organizations we interviewed admit that a lack of agility in data processes has hurt their response to a changing business in the wake of COVID-19. Businesses are either rapidly adjusting to become more agile around their data practices, or they seem to know what changes they need, however, are struggling to adjust. 93% of organizations, as Jordan mentioned in the introduction, have experienced some kind of challenge around data management processes during the pandemic. Businesses continue to realize, with that in mind, the negative effects of unreliable data that's driving business decisions and what those barriers are. When we look at those barriers, they sort of boil down to three sort of primary pillars that come through the research. The first is technology. We talked about, and Jordan mentioned, more business users gaining access to data. And if that's the case, then it's key that the software they're leveraging is both user-friendly and allows appropriate levels of control. So the agility is there with the people at the coalface, the people who know the context of the data. They know the business objective around that data, but it also needs to include the right level of oversight from IT or other functions. The second area that goes along with technology is skills. The technology needs to promote and enable data literacy across the organization as a key to empower those business users as they begin using data for existing and future business initiatives. So data skills have become even more important across a range of role types, more technical data scientists as well as data engineers, and right through to more basic skills that everyone will need to have across a range of different functions, be it operations or distribution and so on. And lastly, data quality. Businesses are realizing that the right information is foundational to drive effective decision making, and perhaps they've known that for a long time, but often data quality is considered too late when chasing more glamorous analytics or AI and ML type opportunities. So with that said, Jordan, maybe from a marketing perspective, how is your team changing, becoming more data literate and technology driven?
Yes, thank you, Michael. So in the past few years, our team has become data-driven through various technology platforms. As business users ourselves, we've been leveraging our tech to better understand market insights and our audience, in addition to lead gen and channel performance. As a content marketer, I don't naturally analyze numbers on a daily basis, but with the access to user-friendly tech, I have the ability to pull market trends and have insight into channel performance to determine what message is resonating with our audience.
That's great. I think it's a good example of where change is happening across many roles and many functions in all organizations and needs to continue to do so. If we look back just for a moment, then in summary, many businesses may have not recognized their data's full potential before the pandemic, is what the research shows. And although organizations may have been on track to become data-driven, a significant percentage of them, 72%, say that better data insight could have helped improve their response to the pandemic, and they recognize the value of their data now more than they did before. So with that brief look backwards, Jordan, why don't you talk about what the research says about the future?
Yes, thanks, Michael. So now it's time to think about how we can use data to prepare for the future. We find that 63% of businesses see data management initiatives becoming more urgent. It's clear that data has become essential given businesses are responding to the pandemic. And we actually found this stat to be true when we did research back in September as well. So 90% of businesses are focused on improving data management resilience to at least some degree over the next 6 to 12 months. This means that businesses are looking to build up a stronger data system that can withstand drastic market shifts as we've seen this past year. 77% say that data management initiatives they invest in today will help them better weather the next crisis. I really love this stat because it shows how businesses can prepare for the future, and we'll talk about what those data initiatives are momentarily. An example of where we can see businesses becoming more reliant on data is contact data. Circling back to my family's retail store, my family has stayed in touch with their consumers via social media, primarily Facebook, as I said before. But they want to make sure they are communicating with customers in other ways, like email marketing. To ensure they are effectively reaching their customers who've signed up for their email list, it's important to know that those emails are reaching the right inboxes and valid inboxes. This goes for companies who are sending packages, direct mail, email triggers, order confirmations, or have even started text message marketing. Businesses need the right data today to effectively reach their customers and stay connected. Businesses have begun prioritizing data management as they realize it's a critical element to responding to the pandemic and securing their future. 91% say they're on some level prioritizing the improvement of data quality in order to increase trust in their data. This could mean implementing real-time data validation across all touch points where data enters the organization. It also means ensuring there are mechanisms in place to regularly assess and improve data as it ages and moves through the organization. We also find that businesses are looking to improve data governance. That is, policies and processes around data and capturing the context of different types of data that enables data literacy and business users to leverage the right data for the right purpose. It also involves automation and moving data to the cloud to take advantage of compute and storage capabilities at a lower cost. And by implementing these different initiatives, and especially automating data processes with real-time contact validation, businesses can save time and focus on those growth-building strategies to overcome the pandemic and have the right data to have a better understanding of their customers' needs in this current environment. So Michael, based on your experience, what's your take on this part of the research?
Hey, yeah, when I look and think about the actions we can take based on this study, I think the order that you see here on this slide is really instructive. Everything starts with data quality. It is that foundation, and it's not surprising to see it here at the top of the list. One of the things I think you'll reference in a few minutes, Jordan, is the concept of data ops. And this is about good data practices being embedded into every part of your organization, almost data quality by design, if you like, applying a systematic approach to integrating data quality and solid data practices into both manual and automated tasks and processes as sort of a core first principle. And from there, we can move into those broader governance angles around people, process, and policy that you spoke about. And then beyond that, to more automation, including leveraging ML and AI and more advanced analytics. But it always starts with quality as the foundation. I think the order here is instructive in considering both any business initiative and the role that data plays, and data initiatives specifically. Often what we see is in projects is skipping the data quality as sort of the foundation step, and seeing, and therefore significant cost and wastage issues later down the line that undermine the overall investment and initiative. And so I think that comes out strongly in the research that while these things are all high on priority, they're all towards the top of the list. I think the order they come out in is very instructive with for those thinking about how to approach it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really, really love that concept. And again, as Michael said, data quality is foundational. It's about having the right information to work off of and pointing your business in the right direction. So before we go into the next slide, please feel free to ask questions in the question or comment box for our Q&A session at the end. And so now we'll talk about what businesses need today to get started. we find that businesses should go back to basics with their people, processes, and tools. 85% of organizations are hiring data roles in the next 6 months. These roles could be data analysts, data quality analysts, data engineers, and data governance managers. Businesses are also looking for easy-to-use technology so that their business users, data professionals, and IT all have access to the right information that automates data processes and monitors for data accuracy. And as Michael mentioned, data ops is an emerging trend. Embedding a systematic approach to integrating data quality and solid data practices into every part of your organization. Data quality by design, up in front and continuously, not as an afterthought. Again, it's foundational. Data ops is defined in the study as the automation and monitoring at all steps of data pipeline construction, from data integration, testing, releasing to deployment, and infrastructure management. At its basic level, it's the operational visibility of what data exists and the level of quality. And in a more sophisticated form, it's the coming together of governance, quality, and data engineering disciplines to create a more dependable data ecosystem for the business. And now I'll hand it over to Michael to wrap it up.
Thanks, Jordan. I think that last point you made about dependable is really key. That's what organizations are looking for. It's what perhaps has been seen as missing through particularly those who felt they maybe weren't as prepared, is the dependability and the resilience around data, I think, comes out really strongly. Just a few key takeaways then to wrap up. Leaders across the globe see the value that data has. That is clear and has been for some time, but that's been heightened. They see that more now than perhaps they did before the pandemic. And in many cases, they've fast-tracked data-driven initiatives to withstand the impact of both this crisis and also prepare for that which might come in the future, particularly those initiatives around customer data. By realizing gaps in legacy data systems, organizations have a game plan to automate processes, improve quality and governance, and also hire the right talent to continue progressing on their data management journey and level of maturity. While not specifically called out in the research, there is a correlation between organizations who are more data-driven and prepared leading into the pandemic and those organizations' ability to adjust. Seeing data in a slightly new light, perhaps, businesses are using data for societal good, which I think is brilliant, through sharing insights or talent to help those in need and uphold public health and safety. Likewise, data has also allowed businesses across all industries to stay engaged with their consumers and deliver a seamless remote experience through digital transformation. And then back to that point I made before about dependability, trustworthy data has provided businesses a stable foundation, even in economic distress. Building resilience in data practices can protect businesses now and in the future. And so I think the message perhaps to close with is, if you haven't started, start. If you've started, keep going. If you're a good ways down the road, perhaps consider helping someone who might not be. The time to get more of your data certainly is today. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate your time. I think we're going to move to some Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you for wrapping it up for us. So now on to the Q&A session. So we're now going to open up to questions. We've already seen some come through, so feel free to submit your questions, and again, the question or comments box. And we'll go to the first question. So, Michael, this is a question that came through. Something I think we have learned as a result of the pandemic is the fact that businesses weren't ready for the rapid change that happened. What would you recommend as best practice tips to get started when we think about how to be prepared for the future?
When I think about best practices to prepare for the future, I go back to that part of our conversation today focused on priority initiatives in the next 12 months with data quality first. You first need to know where you are to sort of know where you want to go. So look at profiling your most important data assets or data repositories. We sort of refer to this as perhaps an analyze phase. I think you want to do it all at once, but definitely pick the things that are most important. And once you understand the current state, you can start to identify what needs to be improved first. You might start by cleansing your data, making corrections, and defining and implementing some form of standardization. This will give you the right information to start making more reliable decisions. And from there, you can look at current procedures around governing the quality of data. And in addition, consider integrating data quality software into your tech stack to automate the data management process and set up controls around how you do what you do with data. And it's really got to be fit for purpose for your business. They're all different.
Great. Thank you so much. I have a few more for you, actually. The questions are coming through.
Let's do it.
So it's clear that as a result of the pandemic, digital acceleration is happening rapidly. Can you talk a little bit about what organizations are doing to ensure a seamless digital experience to handle these changes in the market?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a host of ways that organizations are doing that. I think it sort of depends on the industry. But yeah, there's lots of different things. We're seeing some common things and concentrating around the role of data throughout the customer journey. So there's a heavy focus on the customer acquisition and onboarding phase of that customer journey in retail, for example, centered around the shopping cart, and streamlining form completion, making it easier to sign up or buy. Looking at things like alternate payment methods or improving digital interaction via chat. I think you mentioned text message marketing before, but people want that personal experience as well. So even through social media, Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, and those sort of things, they're all avenues that people are taking to enhance the digital experience. But ultimately, speed and simplicity are the name of the game. So anything that you can do, data driven or otherwise, also data related or otherwise, that is around speed and simplicity, I think is going to be a winner. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we're seeing happen. When you do that, getting the data right at that part of the journey obviously becomes critical. So validating and verifying customer contact data will be critical to anything that then happens downstream. So that could be identity resolution or fraud detection or analytics or marketing. And so we just need to make sure that we follow that data through. And again, that's what we're seeing a lot of people do. Ultimately, per the research, getting the right information to help both the consumer and the business make decisions fast is focused on, and really has been a heavy focus on this area to ensure that there's a high level of trust around data entering the organization and ensuring that it's fit for purpose and easy and engaging for the consumer throughout that journey. So there'd be a few highlights.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it goes back to the point that we were saying that data quality is foundational. And one of the most important reasons why it is to improve customer experience, especially in a digital environment like we're seeing today. So thank you for that. Great. I have a few more for you. What does any easy to use technology look like, and how will its benefits stand out within our tech stack?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's certainly a shift over probably the last maybe 5 years, where the responsibility for data and data-related things, tasks and jobs in an organization, has really shifted further out of IT into line of business responsibility, but certainly in partnership with IT. So when specifically looking at data quality or similar tools, an easy to use tool should be visually very simple, right? It should look and feel like, we all love using consumer apps, to be visually simple, but highly intuitive to users who understand data, but may not be data engineers. It should address the needs of both technical and less technical users, both distinctly, but also in a very complementary way. I think that's really important. And ideally, the tool leads the user through the common actions they need to take, with a simple, intuitive user interface. But with that simplicity, these tools need to pack enough power to process, some pretty sophisticated sort of data tasks and data jobs, and also at a high volume. I guess a couple of things I can think about is that anything that's created by these tools should be reusable across the user community. So what we're seeing more and more is, as data responsibilities get distributed through an organization, the need to share and reuse to get those operational efficiencies is also really important. So there should be a level of automation and sharing that is available. The key benefits that people will look for when they're looking at easy to use, user-friendly data quality or data management tools is really about time to value. So how do I get the most out of the data and the things I need to get done in the fastest possible time? We've talked a lot about the rapid shifts in the market, and so technology needs to align to that. Deployment options and deployment flexibility is obviously really important, be it on-premise or cloud. I think I mentioned it earlier in the conversation, but what's really important and really key is that it needs to get your job done. And every organization in some ways is slightly different. And so it naturally needs to be able to fit into your organization, be extendable where needed, but it needs to enable those business users to increase and level up their data literacy skills, and that platform and workflow needs to work for your organization. So that's what I think generally people are trying to look for, and what they should expect to see with user-friendly oriented data quality and data management tools.
That's awesome. I think you made so many great points there, Michael, especially the time to value benefit of data solutions is really key. I think when you can automate your data processes, you can leave more time for decision making and use that right information and be confident in that information that it'll point you in the right direction. So I really like that, and thank you for sharing. So I have one last question here for you. And again, if there's any more questions, feel free to add them to our questions or comment box. But here's the last one. So it's clear from the takeaway slide is that organizations are focusing on spending budget and resources on improving data quality over the next year. What exactly does that mean? What are organizations prioritizing under the data quality umbrella? And then how does that weave into future initiatives? A few parts to that one.
Yeah, I'll try and answer them sort of in that order. I think the research sort of points out some of this. Again, I go back to the order of those initiatives, and I think it's really about building on foundations and building on top of the success and the value that you derive. But I would say there's probably three things that we see topping the list, specifically focused on customer data, and really in the name of customer experience and regulation. So first is looking at what I would call a sort of holistic approach to data quality that ensures data coming into the organization at the point of acquisition or ingestion through maybe CRM or websites or e-commerce, that ensuring that that's in place. So get it right first time, and get that good data quality filter coming into the organization. And then the ability to process, monitor, and manage data where it lives in the various systems, and then periodically as it moves through the organization. So that's number one. The second would be, because of those sort of various systems, the second area that we're seeing be a high area of focus is the idea of single customer view or identity resolution, being able to connect and consolidate customer records to provide the best possible view of your customer for your organization. Okay, and again, that differs organization by organization, and so really understanding what that looks like in partnership with maybe your vendor or your IT team is really important. That's number two. So single customer view, identity resolution, type of areas of investment. And then the third, I think, builds on top of that and maybe strays beyond the tradition, perhaps, of data quality, but starts to get into the key areas of governance like data catalogs, to define data context and purpose, and improve data literacy across an organization. And that context is really important. When you talk about, I think your second part of your question was, how does all that set you up for the future? And I think it's the combination of data that I can trust with the context and understanding of what data I have, its quality, and what it can and can't be used for, that then allows me to invest further into more sophisticated initiatives around automation, leveraging machine learning in both sort of augmenting customer experiences as well as in analytics and decisioning. So they're the key areas, I think, that we see specifically around when we say what's investment in data quality mean. It's sort of those three areas.
That's great, Michael. Thank you so much, and I find that helpful, very helpful. Great. Well, that's all we have for questions at this time. Thank you all for your time and participation with this webinar. For more information, please feel free to download the research report. It's in the handout section on your webinar screen. You can also find it on our website on edq.com, and always feel free to reach out with more questions. But thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you, Michael. Have a great day.